I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews with David Bchiri, President of the XRPL Commons. David, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Hi, Ashton. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Excited to dive into XRP, XRPL, developer ecosystem, and blockchain overall, where we're at, how XRPL Commons is helping drive decentralization and development in the blockchain space, and hopefully to the greater internet, and all of the other fun stuff that the Commons is working on. I would love to start off our conversation by just, first of all, getting a high level on what is the XRPL Commons and the mission, how that potentially relates to XRP and the other initiatives as well. Where does that fit in? And then we'll dive into all the details.
Wonderful. Well, XRPL Commons is a nonprofit based out of Paris in France that started about 9 months ago. So we're very new in the ecosystem. We are trying to operate on three main pillars with a very clear mission. The mission is to create conditions of success for developers and entrepreneurs in the XRPL ecosystem. And these conditions of success for me are basically getting large corporations, public institutions to get into blockchain, launching projects, finding startups to develop solutions for them, and by then creating opportunities for developers to get into the space. That is a virtuous loop that if we are successful in creating, in a couple of years, maybe 3, 4, 5 years, we'll be able to refocus our energy on other topics in the ecosystem.
Amazing. And so as a nonprofit organization, you're based in France, but I'm guessing that you sort of have development at a global scale, and any developers around the world wishing to join into the blockchain space can get involved?
Absolutely. We were intentional in choosing France. I mean, I grew up here. Most of my career was here, also a bit in the US, but we decided to start XRPL Commons in France because we found that there's an edge in France on DeFi. Research in DeFi has been applied to DeFi for sort of a long time. We have several research labs that are really prominent and strong. There's a financial history in France that is also always welcoming novelty and innovation. And so we figured there's a good crowd here to begin XRPL Commons with. But we don't focus just on the French or the Parisian ecosystem. We're trying to create programs that are online for most of them, or when they're in person here in Paris, they're always recorded so everyone can benefit from the content. And then we're building partnerships with a lot of universities, research labs throughout the world. We're not just centered in Paris, but you have to pick a place to begin with. And if the playbook that we're writing works well, we'll try to replicate it in other locations.
Very nice. And I'm interested to hear more about the XRP ledger building on top of it. I know 2023 was a year that lots of different chains are starting a lot of development. And it's nice to see more developers coming into blockchain overall from Web 2. I feel like there's still a long way to go. You probably have some insight into that. But in terms of choosing a development company or developer going in and saying, okay, I think I've researched them and I want to build on XRP ledger or on as XRP and other ledgers as well. Can you talk about some of the reasons why developers should choose to build on XRP ledger?
There's the short answer and the long answer. The short one is it works. It just works. And you know, I'm quoting Matt Mankins, with the founder of Kudos, is a prominent developer in the community, is really good. When you ask him, why did you choose XRP ledger? It just works for what it is designed for. The longer version, I would say, right now there are plenty development stack that you can choose for a blockchain project. You have like philosophical questions you can raise. Should it be compatible with the Ethereum world or independent? Should it be should you be able to do everything you want with it, or only a few particular things depending on your use case? And then elaborating on security do you want to work on a chain that has proven to be resilient, reliable? I would say, it comes down to what your business is. XRP Ledger started 12 years ago, evolved over time, packs tons of features, is really fast. I'm not trying to sell it, right? This is the for facts. Like it's been sustainably working in the last decade. Never had a major hack, and for a reason. Like the designers, the historic architects of XRP Ledger decided to keep only a few features on chain that would help you do 98% of what you want to do with the blockchain. So if you want to get a transaction on chain, you don't have to write a contract that is complex, that is potentially open to security holds. It will just let you call a library that will do the work on chain. And so that makes the work for the developers much easier, much faster. And then if you're building something that goes in production, it doesn't require a lot of review and audits, because the protocol through its library and API will filter a lot of the security holes that you can find in other chains. So in a way, people will say it comes with constraints, yes, but it also allows for a go-to-market that is way faster than other chains. Today, if you developed smart contracts and have to have it audited before it goes live, the audit companies have a backlog of weeks or months of work ahead of them. So, even if you're very proficient in Solidity and you want to build something on Solidity, the time to deploy that at an industrial scale will require a thorough audit. And then these are things that you can skip with working with the XRP Ledger, because the constraints that the library brings are also speeding up the process of deploying. So that's a major reason why I would say XRP Ledger is a good platform to build on. The other thing is you don't have to learn a new language. If you're already professionally trained in Python, then you use Python. If you rather do something in JavaScript, use JavaScript. In the last 10 years, there's been enough time for developers to build the libraries that let you interact with the XRP Ledger in most of the modern languages. So as a new developer in the blockchain space, it gets you your time to market really, really fast.
Great. That's a great point. And the library part, I think, is of utmost it's just efficiency for developers. It's like having to go from scratch on everything and then also have the audits. Sure, you have the flexibility to do anything, but it's going to be 10 times more work than just using these libraries. And also you mentioned about the history of the XRP Ledger, 12 years, test of time, one of the oldest still active blockchains, and a lot of transactions there. And like the longer that it's been around and the more transactions, the more strength and security of the network as well. So a lot of these layer 2s that they're seeing active development on, some of them haven't even launched on mainnet, or maybe they're in 6 months or 1 year old, and they may be good, but they don't have 12 years of history like XRP Ledger does.
That is true. And it also comes with you're missing on some of the novelty, like, should we deploy a new implementation of RippleD, which is the software that is running on the servers? Should we run a new implementation of that built in Rust, for instance? Rust is a modern language that a lot of blockchains have adopted. I would say new generation blockchain have adopted. And it always raised the same questions, like, should you decide to go with the novelty, knowing that this novelty may not be around in 5 years? A lot of developers, I've started my career working as a PHP developer. PHP 15 years ago was the best, one of the best language you could find and learn as a developer. Today, I would say I maybe know 5 developers who are still working with PHP, and they're working on legacy systems. If you're adopting a new language and you bring your whole stack on this language, you have to make sure that this language will be still around in 10 years, 15 years, if you're thinking long term. So RippleD has been developed in C++, And C++, it's an old language, very efficient language, one of the object-oriented language that is the closest to the machine. And I would say nothing has been done better than that since. But it's, I know people will hear that and write in comments that I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's still around and it still works.
Yeah, and for people who aren't developers, it's, there's so many languages coming up, and each blockchain is using, for the most part, different languages. Some of them are using multiple, as you're saying. Can you talk about, from a high level, people who aren't developers, where exactly blockchain is at in terms of the amount of developers that are in Web 2 right now, which I'm sure is many, many millions, to Web 3, which I'm sure is a smaller amount, and why are there not more making it into Web 3? What are the barriers to entry? How come we're not seeing an easy switch over so that every developer in the world can start building on blockchain?
You have to zoom out to understand what are the dynamics here. Developers will undergo a training and learn new technical skills if they're sure they can find a professional opportunity after. So if you're in school right now, you're in engineering school or computer science school and learning new stuff, all you hear about today is AI or quantum computing. So you will want to learn about that because you think that is what's going to lend you a job later when you graduate. And that's totally normal. If you are studying blockchain, you need to make sure that you will find a job linked to blockchain 2, 3, 4 years from now. So I would say the trend, has been very tied to the markets. When the markets were high, medias were talking a lot about blockchain, and so that generated a lot of buzz. People were confident they could find jobs linked to blockchain, so they were studying that. Right now, there's less noise, less buzz about blockchain, which I would say this is a good thing. Less noise is also more focus, and so it allows us to work on what matters most. And for that reason, I think we've seen less people getting into the space, less technical people getting into the space, because there were less opportunities. Why? Because there was less funding injected into startups, and so less opportunities for developers to enter the space. So if we get a new cycle of adoption, I'm not saying a new cycle of hype, but cycle of adoption, down the road, we will get more developers in the space. And this is how we've built our vision at Commons. What we're trying to do is create opportunities for developers to get into the space by generating the opportunities for startups to enter in relationships with large organizations, to build solutions that the large organizations are willing to pay for. Right now, it's all either paid upfront by VCs or through an ICO or private investors. What we need is to have the more traditional companies getting into the space and paying solutions off the shelf that will be built by startups. That will relaunch a new cycle of investment in blockchain. Mm-hmm. The VCs I know and I work with in Europe are very confident that blockchain solutions are technically good, and so they're still investing massively in blockchain solutions. So that is a trend for me that I'm looking at closely, because that gives me sort of the temperature whether or not there will be work for developers 6 months, a year from now. Mm-hmm. I'm very confident there will be work for them, because we see the adoption cycle going slowly, but it's certainly getting there.
Yeah, that's a great insight, and I feel like it's similar to what we've seen in the past Bitcoin cycles. Each cycle, the bear market sort of gets less daunting, and eventually as adoption goes up, there's not going to be as much of a winter where people are developing, and in the bear market is actually the time for developing. But of course, the startups need capital to pay the developers for many years, and the VCs, I don't know if they just are emotionally investing, or there's not as many when the bear market's in there. There's like, I'm waiting until the hype comes, when really they should be investing in the bear market for the future. So
that is correct. And maybe there's something particular about the blockchain industry and the crypto industry in particular is that the way the whole industry has been structured is the only industry where you can find so many grants. And grants are basically free money. So, the crypto foundations have money, they can disperse that and finance the adoption through giving grants. And I think during the bull market, the last bull market, it was sort of a big party where you could basically get any foundation to give you money to build any crazy idea you had, which was, I think, instrumental in getting people to learn about blockchain, to build things, build tools. A lot of toolings were developed through that round of financing. But I think, as if you're giving money without any return on investment, that's philanthropic, that's great. But if you are looking to create a sustainable ecosystem, at some point you need to be intentional in giving the money to people who are going to build solutions that will find their own market, that will find their own customers. And so, a lot of companies building NFT solutions drowned with the price of NFTs going down in the last 6 months. And good people, good developers, good technical stacks, but no market in the end, or no more market in the end. So it's a bit cold to say that, but I think the next round, the next cycle, cycle we're entering, we need to be more intentional into financing the solutions that will be sustainable in the end.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, David. And I'm curious about the XRP ledger. And traditionally, I think people that are outside of the blockchain ecosystem or from a high level, they hear XRP, that's like the financial coin or ledger, and it's for banks or it's just for financial transactions. But in terms of development on the ledger itself, I'm guessing you can do things outside of the finance industry or tokenize any industry. What is the development focus? Is it primarily, from the insider perspective on just the financial industry, or are there other NFT, gaming, all of these other things involved right now in active development?
Well, great segue for what I wanted to tell you about the ecosystem. This question keeps coming, for a good reason. XRP Ledger was designed with payments in mind. It was designed more than 10 years ago, and it's really good at handling payments. Now, with a lot of new features added, like NFTs, you could basically do anything on XRP Ledger that you can do on another chain, and keep getting the same efficiency, rapidity. It's still very fast to proceed, whether that's a payment transaction or an NFT transaction. So what we see now are a range of startups getting interested in building on XRP Ledger for the ease of using it, and for all the good parts that I mentioned earlier, but not because it's useful for payments. They don't really care about payments. What they want is either tokenize real world assets or build proof on chain, and for that XRP Ledger is a really good tool. Recently we launched a program named the Aquarium. It's an entrepreneur residency that is hosted here in Paris, and we just closed the first cohort that was dedicated to regeneration. So more than refi, it was more than regenerative finance. It was all components of regeneration that can be applied to a blockchain project. And we've seen a lot of great projects that are totally, very far from the financial world, but creating financial value, building their solution. And so it's more than financial value that is being created. And I'll give you an example. Car asset. It's a very simple technology that it's a notebook for keeping track of all the car parts. And if you can manage to keep track of all the car parts, you can make the car life longer, basically. So for a bank which is leasing cars to customers, if you help them leasing the cars one more year, It's a lot of financial value that is attached to that, but the underlying asset is not financial. It's a car and a notebook, an on-chain notebook that will help you take a better care of your car.
Yeah.
Very simple example, but you can see that by using the XRP ledger, they're generating value that is not only financial, that is not only linked to payments, but is relying on all the technical good things that the XRP ledger brings. And this cohort has closed at Christmas. The new cohort will start next Monday and will be about intellectual property. So again, not linked to the financial industry, but leveraging all the good parts of the XRP ledger and building decentralized science solutions on XRP ledger, building new forms of new business models for media and content using the XRP ledger.
Wow, that's great to hear. And I like what you said about real world assets. And it does tie, everything's going to tie into payments or making it more efficient. But I feel like we're really at the inception still of tokenizing real world assets and then tying them into the blockchain to provide extra value for all stakeholders. It's going to be the market size of real world assets on the blockchain is almost nothing right now. And which blockchain that primarily happens on is sort of yet to be decided. So I'm glad that XRP is also focused on that.
I agree with you. We're at the very early days. Even though XRP Ledger has been around for 10 years, a full cycle of adoption for a technology to become mainstream is closer to 25, 30 years. So for the people who are in a rush, I would love for everyone to calm down. There's the speculative aspect of blockchain that makes it very fast and the cycles are pretty short. But for the underlying technology, the ledger itself, the long-term adoption we're half the way through, maybe just in the first third. So I'm very quiet about it, but I still think that these are the early days. And in these early days, we are lucky that we have one of the old solutions that has been proven to be reliable. So for the long-term adoption, it's a very strong argument.
Yeah, no, great point, David. And when I look from the investment perspective, the smartest, most successful investors in the world always have a very long-term investment horizon. They're not just thinking, what's XRP Ledger going to be doing next year or in 2 years. And I feel like the developers and the platform creators should have that same perspective in let's look multiple cycles down the road when we can actually break through. And a lot of the times these startups are, a 10-year overnight success. It's not just something that can be done in 2 years. And eventually there's that aha moment that's like, boom, all of a sudden a large percentage of real world assets are tokenized on your platform and the whole world is using it.
Absolutely. And you have to create the conditions for that to happen. And that is not happening over time. So we're paving the way for future entrepreneurs to succeed using XRP Ledger. We're doing a number of things. And you see in the community, people are building on XRP Ledger or on the side of XRP Ledger. They're right now a community of core contributors to the XRP Ledger that are developing a sidechain named Zaha that is enabling new set of features. They've been working on that for already 3 years, and just coming to life now, and people are talking about it right now, but they've been working on it consistently for a long time. And I see, the horizon for that is maybe another 3 years, but suddenly we see that projects are being built on top of XRP Ledger or on the side of XRP Ledger to create more value or to address industries that were not addressed directly by startups in the ecosystem. In this case, they're targeting retail. And for a long time, retail was sort of shy to interact with blockchain or with crypto for a number of reasons, legal reasons, volatility of crypto, whatever. But now with these solutions on off the shelf, it will be super easy for any retail to accept crypto for their customers and pay, in real time in a shop. I feel that, that's the future of payment. That's part of the future of payments, and it's coming to life now. So very excited for these solutions to come to the market.
Very exciting. So if I could reiterate to sort of get this straight, the residency program from the XRPL Commons, you're helping to educate the developers, and then it's like you have two pieces of the puzzle and you're trying to make them fit together. You know, you have the VCs or the funding side and the companies, and you're trying to get the developers up to speed, get them a job, and get them working on things while also giving them the tools of the library kit on the XRP ledger, sort of fit all the pieces together to make it a success?
Exactly. So we're building this residency. It's called the Aquarium. It's a 12-week program for entrepreneurs and developers. We're trying to mix people with a background in business and people with a more technical background to have them sit in the same room for 12 weeks. It's a long time, but 3 months is basically the time you need to turn an idea into a prototype or a beginning of a project, building on XRP Ledger, and we're nurturing this collective of people with a lot of content, with a lot of mentors, a lot of insights from the industry, and in the process, what we do is we give them a good understanding of what blockchain is, of what XRP Ledger is. We're opening the community to get opportunities from these future startups that are being built. And by doing so, we attract a lot of investors. So we get a lot of inbounds from VCs who are certainly interested in knowing what are these guys building. We want to know, among these 12 weeks of work, there might be one startup that we're interested in investing in. And the first cohort was also a mix, like we're trying to get diverse backgrounds, but also people with different nationalities. So the first one, we had 7 nationalities, men and women, and young and less young entrepreneurs. And that brings an interesting conversation. People coming with a lot of grit and a lot of enthusiasm, and people coming with more wisdom and more experience. And they're all helping out each other, which is like what I really wanted, was to create this collective that was self-sustaining. And now they became alumni, where they're still very engaged with the community. And I'm trying to do that repeatedly. So if we do that 3 times a year, we'll have a community of about 50 entrepreneurs and developers really attached to the XRP Ledger, and becoming the engine of the next cohorts. So we're really trying to empower people. Knowledge is important. We're doing that through the residency, but also through a network of partners in the academic world. So we're out there teaching blockchain, but also helping teachers to teach blockchain. So we're designing some curriculum that are all open source for teachers who want to teach blockchain, and getting them up to speed on their courses, because it takes a long time to become an expert. But if you're already like a good computer science teacher, it's going to be pretty easy for you to absorb the material that we produce and then teach blockchain. So it's also like long time. It's a long-term vision, but we're getting at the point where we have enough teachers tied to our community that we can send to these, for now, European universities and engineering schools.
Very cool, David. And for people that want to learn more about the residency program, whether it's a developer that actually wants to test it out, or potentially investors that are looking for good ideas that are being seeded on XRPL, or people that are interested in when these initiatives do go public, the successful ones, how we can learn about them, follow along, participate. What is the best way to reach all of those avenues?
So we have a website, xrpl-commons.org, where we try to communicate on every programs. And we have both our Twitter and our LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn is pretty unusual in the blockchain space, but it also, because we're trying to get professional to get interested in what we do. So this is the good channel to communicate on. And if anyone is interested, I would say engage with us on Twitter, or drop us a mail on our website. Everything is there. The residency is like ever going. So we're recruiting now for residency number 3 and number 4. Next one will be about decentralized identity. And we're not sure about number 4. Should it be Should it be gaming or should it be DeFi? We have several ideas that we would like seeing implemented. So we're not sure yet, but people can come along and apply.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to checking it out, and I will leave the website links and the Twitter and the LinkedIn in the show notes below as well. Appreciate your insights into this, David. It sounds like there's a lot going on at the XRPL Commons, and I'm excited to sort of play with the ledger on as a participant side. When these apps come out, get involved, test it out, be a part of history. So it's very exciting, and I appreciate all that you're doing for blockchain overall. Would love to follow up in the future cohorts back on the show as well, and just hear the progress and see how everything is coming along. But I have a feeling that 2024 is going to be a great year.
Hopefully it will be. Thank you so much for your time. And I heard you were traveling a lot. If you ever happen to be in Paris, we call it the Commons HQ. It's a beautiful office space. You're welcome to come by.
Very exciting. Thank you so much, David. I appreciate it, and have a great day.
Thank you.